Hi, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Goddesses podcast. I'm your host, Monique Hom, and I am super excited to have our guest, Ellie Perlman, with us today. So, on this show, I interview incredible, badass real estate investing women to share their stories with us and their triumphs and their stumbles, and so that we can learn. And I try to get the most incredible women I can on the show, and today is certainly no exception. I'm super excited to have Ellie with us. We're actually we started a mastermind together recently, so she's one of my mastermind sisters, and I'm excited to introduce her to you and share her with you today. She is a real estate investor who owns over 2,000 units across the United States, worth over $250 million. She started her career as a commercial real estate lawyer. So, like me, she's a former lawyer, and she was leading commercial real estate transactions for Africa, Israel's largest development company, and later as a property manager for one of Israel's most prominent oil and gas companies. Also, she oversaw properties worth over $100 million. So she's had some badass experience, and she's the founder and CEO of Blue Lake Capital, a real estate investing firm specializing in multifamily investments. There, she helps investors grow their wealth and get double-digit returns by investing alongside of her in large multifamily deals that they otherwise normally wouldn't have access to. So I'm super excited to have her with us today. Welcome, Ellie.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here today and also see you. We're recording this, so it's always great to connect with you, and today is no exception.
Well, likewise. So on the show, we share, guests share their stories, and I like to start at the beginning. So, how did you get started in real estate investing?
I actually started years ago as a passive investor, and I was always in real estate. As you mentioned, was describing my bio. I was in real estate as a lawyer, as a property manager, and basically, I was always around real estate, and I knew I would that was my future, and I wasn't sure in what capacity exactly. So from the legal side, I kind of moved to the operational side and then shifted back to investing. Um, but I think investing for me as a limited partner was a mind-opening experience, and that's basically how I started.
So, where was your first deal? Because you're originally from Israel. You live in the
Mm-hmm.
U.S. now. So, where did you first invest? Tell us a bit about that first investment that you did.
Well, I actually invested here in the US. So in Israel, it's a bit different. We don't have the opportunity to invest. We don't have the access to invest in the deals that we found here. And I started investing in multifamily actually with a syndicator who is a really big syndicator. And that's a great way to learn about multifamily investing also. You don't have to figure everything out on your own. You can let other people manage your money, but it allows you access to information so you can actually ask whatever you want to ask. You can see how they what the business plan is, why they chose the specific property, why the specific market. So that was basically it. So I was actually I don't own anything back in Israel, so everything that I own is here in the U.S.
Okay, all right. And I want to echo that because that's how I started in with multifamily as well as a passive investor. And you're right, it is a great way to learn and to get into that game. So now you are on the active side. You're
Hmm.
syndicating. How did you get into that? And what made you decide to become a syndicator?
So it's actually an interesting story. I was working. I was in California, in Los Angeles, working in a tech company, and at some point there was no more work for me because my team was disbanded. The company was not doing very well, um, And I was also getting very bored. It wasn't really, it was a very, very easy six-figure job, and I was just not intrigued. And I came to a realization as I was negotiating with other companies, that I should own my own path. And if I want someone to um, kind of measure my potential and write a check, I prefer not to be my paycheck. I prefer to be an investor investing with me. And that basically, when I was transitioning to a new job, I decided to stop the process and, take a few moments and kind of try to understand where I wanted to go from there. And the answer was owning my own business. And I was always in real estate, so I decided to make it a full time and transition to active investing. And I got a mentor. I paid a lot of money, and I found someone who I just liked how he grew in the space, and I liked his spirit. And um, I realized that no matter how much I pay for the mentorship program, it's probably going to prevent me from making mistakes. They're going to cost me more and kind of accelerate the process.
Yeah.
So it's not it's an investment like anything else. It's so easy to lose money in real estate. So easy to make a $50,000, $100,000 mistake. And having someone who can walk me through the process, can teach me everything, for me was invaluable. So that's how I actually started syndicating deals.
That's awesome. And when did you actually get started?
That was a few years back. I think I don't remember the exact timing, but I was also in the market for a while, looking for deals and analyzing. It took me some time to learn, but I was
Yeah,
okay not rushing into the first deal,
sure.
and making sure that I know what I was doing, and that I'm 100% I know what's happening with the deal, how the numbers should work, and what's a good deal, what's not a good deal, and what I should pay attention to. For instance, if I'm being very optimistic with the rent growth, then that can really affect the numbers. So
Yeah.
the market is doing very great, very well now, and rents increase in some markets even 5 to 7% every year. But I can't assume it's the same is going to happen in the next 5 years. I have to be pessimistic and realistic because we're kind of at the top of the market. So all these small, it seems to be small things. It took me a while. I'm kind of a nerd, and I lack information, and I feel very secure and when I have information. So that for me, that was that's how I do things. And maybe it's my legal background. I just love information. I think I just didn't want to do anything active and take responsibility for my investors' money before I knew what I was doing.
Oh, yeah. I totally get that. Same
Right?
thing. Yeah. Yeah, it's so smart when you are it's one thing to make a 50, $100,000 mistake with your own money. It's another thing to do it with
Exactly.
somebody else's money.
Mm-hmm.
That is what really keeps you up at night. I know myself, if as a syndicator, that it's like I am too. It's like really, it was really important to invest a lot in mentorship and really important to study a lot, really important to know what you're doing because, you're when you're a steward of other people's money, it's
Yeah.
our hard earned, energy, life or energy, then you have to treat it as well as you can.
I know. And a lot of guys actually like more risk, and there's nothing wrong with it as long as everyone who's investing with them, everyone is aware of the risk that is involved with it. I think women, I don't know if I'm generalizing, but I think women in general are more risk averse, and especially, I went to law school, so I see everything through a legal prism, of, what are all the bad things that can happen, and how can I prevent it from happening and protect myself. That's how a lawyer thinks, like when a lawyer writes down a contract, because you need to, cover all your bases and think what all the bad scenarios that could happen with, to my client in that relationship, how can I protect him? or hurt. And that's how I think. I basically think, okay, what happens if rents drop? What happens if we'll need more money for renovation? What happens if there's going to be more new construction in the area and that's going to be a competition? So I can definitely relate. I want to be able to sleep at night. This is not why I started my own business, so I can't sleep. So it's more stressful than any job, but it couldn't be more rewarding.
Yeah, I hear you. When it's going well, it's like the best. When
Yeah,
it's
the
when
highs
things
are
are not
high.
quite according to
Yeah,
plan,
the
definitely can
lows
lead to
are
some
low.
sleepless nights.
Yeah.
So you are all about multifamily. So tell me, why you really like multifamily as an asset class for investing?
I love multifamily. I actually most of my investment is as an active investor, as a syndicator, also as a passive investor. Mostly multifamily, also in other asset classes, but I love multifamily because I can see the trend, and the trend is actually moving away from single family homes and into apartment buildings for two reasons. One, you have millennials, and they don't want to live in houses anymore, like the previous generation, um, because they delay the marriage age and they want to have the flexibility of moving around and to open to new experiences and new job opportunities. So the demand for apartment building is actually increasing. On the other hand, you also have the baby boomers that are scaling down, selling their homes, moving to either condos or very comfortable apartment buildings where everything is being taken care of. So I definitely see this trend. I like also the economies of scale. You don't buy one door, one contract and one loan for one unit. You can do the same for 100 units, and it's much easier to acquire 20, 50, 100 doors than to acquire 20 or different single family homes.
Absolutely.
um, and then offices I think are more sensitive to the cyclicality of the market. So if there's going to be a shift, businesses are going to get hurt. And unless you have a serious anchor tenant like Microsoft,
Yeah.
uh, you can really feel it, and it can be very painful. So I think everyone needs a place to live, and I just think it's a safer asset class, probably the safest. And I like to be in a class B, so buildings in the 80s, 90s, actually 90s into the early 2000s, because they're among multifamily, different types of, so we have class A, B, and C, and sometimes even D, some people say. Um, I don't like the two extremes. I don't really like the high-end buildings, class A, because they're very sensitive to corrections. They
Yeah.
get hit the hardest. A lot of people are migrating because they can't afford the high rent, so they go to class Bs. And then some Cs are great, but then class Ds, in crime areas, it's not really where you
Yeah.
want to be in my opinion, in any stage of the cycle. I don't want to deal with drug dealers and hookers. I don't want to go to gun to collect rent, and I don't want to send anyone to do that for me. So,
Yeah. Takes a very, very brave person to do Class D.
yeah,
There it can guess you can get some good returns, but it is dangerous. So
yeah, high risk, high reward. They're not bad. They're good for certain type of investors. I'm just not one of them.
yeah,
So.
me neither. Me neither. I hear you. So, um, one of the questions that I love to ask because I feel like we learn so much more when things don't go right than we do when it's smooth sailing. So I always ask all my guests, what was your biggest mistake and what did you learn from it?
My biggest mistake, I don't want to say, I usually don't like to look back and think, what if, could have, should have, would have. Definitely moving, I think one of the biggest mistakes that I've done was, and that's the answer I'm not going to give you, and that's starting syndicating deals and buying multifamily early on. Um, right after the crash around 2011, I think that was a great market. But you always know that in hindsight. That's not the answer I'm going to give because I don't like to look back and say, oh my God, why didn't I do that? That was a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Um, so the answer I will give you about my biggest mistake was to with some investors, because I'm also raising money for my deals. The biggest mistake was actually not to kind of I wanted to keep some investors for the next deal. So I decided to raise money. I was partnering with another company, and I said, okay, I'm going to raise certain amount, X amount of money. And once I got to that level, I actually raised more than I initially, thought that I would do. And I had more investors, and I decided to keep them, on the kind of for the next deal. And I said, hey, they'll wait for me. I rather have them on the next deal. So instead of bringing all of them to the current deal. And what happened was that by the time I had the next deal, they already invested in another deal, and I lost. They were open to invest, in the future, and some of them came back, but I lost that opportunity. It was a window of opportunity. They had money, they were willing and eager to write a check. And I thought, hey, I'm just going to spread out the investors, bring some to this investment, and the other ones, they're probably going to wait a few months to the next one. And it's not what happened. I think that's
Oh,
one of the things that one of my biggest mistakes is I just lost some investors there.
yeah. So sometimes people have windows when they're
Hmm.
ready and available to invest certain chunks of money, and so being able to take advantage of the right window
Yeah.
when there's a willing investor and then an opportunity that would match them, then take it going for it.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
a good lesson. Um, and so the flip side of mistake is, what are you most proud of?
Um, what I'm most proud of is shifting from, making the change in my life. I was born to a very poor family. I was the oldest of four kids, and my mom was very sick. Growing up, I basically raised my sisters and little brother. And being successful was not in the stars for me. That was not something that was reasonable. I got married at the age of 19, and I was married for almost 10 years. Um, and I was struggling. I remember we didn't really have money to pay for even bread, so we needed to borrow money. And I worked really, really hard, and I worked three jobs, and I did whatever I could to get into a good law school because I knew that education was my way out of the my kind of my financial situation. And it wasn't easy because around me, all I saw was people who told me I was a dreamer, that I was, life is hard and I should not expect, too much of life. And I just rejected that. I refused to listen to it. And I really believe in creating your own reality. I really believe that what you tell your brain is what your brain is going to broadcast this new reality, and you're going to make decisions consciously and subconsciously to make to adjust to that new image that you have. And it took me about 2 years to get into law school because I really wanted to go to one of the best law schools in Israel, not to just any law school. And got I did master's and a bachelor and master's degree in 4 years, and started working for a really big law firm, and was part of really huge deals, real estate deals. And after several years, I decided to move to the U.S., and I went to business school in Boston. Went to MIT, and it wasn't easy to get in. And again, people told me, MIT is very competitive, and it's going to be a stretch. And I said, let's do it. I learned to get excited when people thought that something was really hard to achieve or impossible, and there's nothing impossible. I don't think there's anything that is impossible. Um, so I'm really proud of being able to shift from a 16 years old, girl who was in boarding school and saw, drug abuse and kids who thought that being part of a gang is a way of life, and from being able to see through all of that and not touch any of those things and focus on school and knowing that through education I can change my life. That's I think one of the things that pushed me, and I always aim for more. I always think that what I do is not enough because I want to get to the next level and the next level, and I'm always going to be that um, that girl in boarding school without with from a poor family. It's kind of a state of mind, but it's not in a bad way. It's not a negative way. It's positive because I've been there and I've seen what it's like to grow up without money, and um, I never want to be in that place, and that makes me work even harder. And I don't really need to work today, but there's no way I'm not going to get up in the morning and try to find a new, way to make money and a new deal and kind of reach to higher heights every day. But for me, that's exciting.
Wow, that is exciting. That's an inspiring story, and I can see why you would be very proud of that, of all the things that you've been able to do, given having, a lot of perceived strikes against you. Uh, um, so you might have already answered this next question with what you were just sharing, but maybe there's a different nuance. To what do you attribute your success?
Definitely to my past and my background, but also my parents. They had nothing to give me, but they gave me the best gift, and that's kind of it's a strong belief in my abilities. And my parents always, always, always told me there's nothing you can't do. If you
Yeah.
put your mind to something, you will do it. And that's why I believe I can do anything. That's why, getting to MIT from a poor family in Israel, for me, it looked, why wouldn't I be able to do that? Or, buying a $50 million apartment building, why wouldn't I be able to do that? So I think that's one of the things that actually contributed the most to my success, just how much my parents believed in my abilities. And I think that was actually worth than any, amount of money that they could have given me. That's for
Yeah.
sure. I don't know if I ever told him that actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I
So
should. I
you
should
have
call my
you have a
mom right
phone
after
call
this.
after this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really does make a difference. I think, I had my mom always told me that too. She's like, Monique, you can do anything you want. She would always say, you can do anything you want. You can be anything you want. And that really makes a difference.
Yeah.
So it is a blessing to have had that. So I guess you were very rich with that because
Yes.
that can get
Exactly.
you anything. Um, what advice do you have for a woman just starting out in real estate?
Um, I would say find someone that you like and try to learn from them. I think there's always a way to add value to anybody. So if you want to kind of learn, I'm a huge, it worked for me. So I think hiring a mentor is can really boost your career in real estate or in anything else, especially specifically in real estate. And I think you can always find ways to add value if you find someone that you trust, you like what they do, you want to do what they do. Reach out and ask to sit down for a cup of coffee. Sometimes one conversation can change your life. I met a guy a few months ago in LA, and I went to a meetup called Out of State Investing. And he was I met him, we were chatting. He was super excited about the fact that he's going to buy a duplex out of state. He ran the numbers, he liked them, and he was about to fly in a few days to to see the property and buy it. And I told him, why don't you buy multifamily? Why start small? And he said, yeah, one day I want to do what you do, but I'm not there yet. I want to graduate and do that, but I need some experience. And I told him that's probably very, I mean, it's very different. Buying two doors and 50 doors, you can't really learn much from the two doors. And you can just partner with someone, find someone that you like, give them, help them in some way, and find your way into that. And 3 months ago, he called me and he said, I just closed the deal. I don't remember the numbers exactly. Several million dollars. I helped, I found a syndicator. I helped this guy raise money and I got in and I'm part of the general partnership.
Awesome.
And he took me out to dinner just to say thank you. He basically said, what you did, that conversation we had at that meetup in West LA changed my life. He didn't buy that duplex. He just went straight to what he wanted to do years down the road. For him, that's what he thought he would get there, years ago. So just find someone, just, have a phone call, a chat, coffee, whatever. And like this guy did, he found someone that he wanted to work with, and I didn't have a deal at that time, so he also wanted to work with me, but he found someone that did, and he made, he found a way to add value to that person. He brought capital to the deal, and now he's doing deals.
It's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, that's such great advice. Ah, Ellie, thank you. Um, Before we go into our famed end of podcast Trinity, which is a
Yeah.
brag, a gratitude, and desire, I want to ask, what is the best way for people to connect with you if they want to find out more about what you're doing?
Well, you can Google Ellie Perlman. Ellie is Ellie, and you can, probably see my website there. It's ellieperlman.com. Um,
And Perlman is Perlman.
yeah. So it's Ellieperlman. And if you want to shoot me an email, it's just Ellie@ellieperlman.com.
All right, fantastic. So, where it's time for our Trinity. So, what is your brag?
Why did I brag? I think I bragged enough.
No, you didn't.
It feels to me.
Yeah, you're
What's
just
I
sharing your
brag?
story. It's just your story's pretty badass, but
I
um
think I think that's enough for bragging today. Just from being able to go to get admitted to one of the top law schools in Israel, and then get into MIT. I think that's enough of a brag for me, because I wasn't part of the in all of those top schools you have people that come from a very specific background, and I was a bit different. So that's I think that's enough of a brag. I mean,
no, give us a recent brag. Something
a
recent.
recent brag.
Yeah.
A recent brag was so I partnered with another company, and we closed a $50 million apartment building deal. Yeah,
Awesome.
398 units in the Dallas area. Um, it's funny because I was bidding for that deal, and then realized um, that my mentor was bidding for the same deal, and he ended up getting it. Um, and then we partnered on it. So
Fantastic.
yeah, that's a great deal. It's a beautiful property. I'm very proud of it.
Oh, well bragged. And what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for might sound corny, but for my husband, which is not the same husband that I had when I got married at 19 back in Israel. It's a new husband. Get married in the beginning of September of this year. So I'm very grateful for him because um, he keeps me, grounded, and in a way that many times when you have big dreams, you're I'm at least very stressed sometimes if I don't get it in the time frame that I want, which is many times, um, I don't want to say non-realistic, but very, very aggressive. So he makes me see things from a more neutral perspective, and put things, in perspective. Um, and he believes in me and supports me in every possible way. So I'm very, very grateful for him.
Mm, beautiful. And finally, what is one desire?
What is my one desire? Uh,
What is one desire? I'm assuming you probably have more than one.
10,000 units.
10,000 units? Okay.
Portfolio with 10,000 units. Yeah.
All right. Well, so shall your desire be, or so much better than you can imagine.
Amen.
Yes. All right. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Ellie. Thanks for being here. And if you want to connect with her again, you can go to ellieperlman.com, ELLIEPERLMAN.com to connect with her. And want to connect with me, go to reigoddesses.com. There you can check out our programs. We have an education and a mentorship program if you are looking for mentoring in real estate, ladies. And then you should definitely check it out under programs. And if you click under invest, you can find out about our investor club and investment opportunities, like the ones we've been talking about. So that's me. And thank you again, Ellie. This was awesome. And join us next time where we have another badass real estate investing goddess interview. Bye bye.
Awesome. Thank you, Monique.